Hey guys, how you doing? This is Manga, etc. and I'm here today to bring you the review for Fairy Tail chapter 448. So we skip straight back to Fairy Tail and everyone is celebrating the fact that Makarov is back. Everyone's happy that he's back, drinking, laughing, etc. etc. During this time we learned that how Laxus, he's got a secret about his time at Blue Pegasus, which he's not trying to let anyone figure out. We see how Evergreen was trying to reveal this big secret and Laxus was like, shh, stop talking, don't say no more. We also learned that how Myra, Elfman's older sister, she's been training throughout this whole year, so that's going to be interesting to see, because Myra has really always been the mage that has helped Fairy Tail from within the guild, not really going on quests, but we do learn previously that she is very strong. I think it's mentioned all the time in her fights, if not all the time, most of the time in her fights, that she's always holding back. And we also know that back in the day she used to rival Elsa, so the fact that she's been training, focusing on training for a whole year, this should produce some good results, and we might have another strong mage within Fairy Tail, so let's see where we go with that. So yeah, while they're celebrating now, Makarov interrupts and he's like, yo, I need to explain to you why I did what I did. And we got people from within Fairy Tail, they're replying saying, it's alright, you don't need to say no more. Mess told us everything. Makarov then goes on to explain that Alvarez is targeting them and that they want Fairy Heart, so they're going to be the target. And into this, Natsu basically says, yeah, so what? I don't care. Yes, we are scared, but that is not what we're fighting for. We are fighting to live, we're not fighting to win this battle. And the way that was done during the chapter, I did find actually quite cool. And I think I think that the fact that he burnt the map that Makarov was showing is gonna somehow be some symbolic to how easily they're gonna beat Alvarez, because he just touched the map, and obviously because it's paper and fire, it burnt quite easily. So I think that's quite going to be quite symbolic to how quickly they beat the Alvarez Empire, which shouldn't be the case, but hey, we'll see what happens when that comes up. Makarov then goes on to say to his guild that he wants to now tell them what Fairy Heart is, and that's when the first monster comes back, and it is mentioned by Elsa. She says, is this her spirit form or is it not her spirit form? So I don't know if that's important, but it might not be. It might be or it might not be. But we do see the first master. She has come back and she is ready to explain what Fairy Heart really is. Now she mentions two things. She mentions that she needs to explain to them why Zarif is after it, and she needs to explain her sin. So I'm starting to think, did she commit a sin and become Fairy Heart, or is Fairy Heart a sin in a sense? So I don't know. We still need to get answers on what Fairy Heart really is, and we'll obviously be getting that next chapter. One thing that's also mentioned is a curse. The curse of a girl and the curse of the boy, and the curse of the girl is the curse of the girl is referring to Mavis, and the curse of the boy is referring to Zarif. So I'm thinking maybe they both created Fairy Heart together. But wherever Fairy Heart is, we're going to get these answers within the next chapter. So I'm looking forward to the next chapter. I think that this chapter was basically just set up for the next chapter. So I feel no reason to give it more than a 3 star rating and call it review. But like always, guys, I'm asking for your thoughts and opinions. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, but most importantly, take care. Have a nice day. Hey guys, how you doing? This is Manga, etc. and I'm here today to bring you the review for Fairy Tail Manga chapter 449. The chapter starts off and we're in the middle of the second trade war, and we basically get to see Mavis, the fairy tactician, display her skills as a tactician, because you know how it's been always said that Mavis was this great tactician. So we get to see some of these skills in the beginning of the chapter. The chapter then flicks back to Fairy Tail. We get to see some of the, well, not introduced to any of the members, but we get to see some of the earlier members of the Fairy Tail Guild, as well as the other ones that we already know, Yuri, the second master, and Warad. As the chapter goes on, we get to learn that how in the second trade war there was more deaths than in the first trade war, and this is because the participation of mage guilds. And so this is around the time where the Magic Council put in the law that enforces that how guilds are not allowed to conflict with each other. As the chapter moves on to the most important part of the chapter, we see Mavis, we see Zarif. They have a encounter again, a random encounter again, and where they sit down and they get to talking. And it's during this time where Zarif learns that how Mavis has used fairy law, or law, whatever you want to call it, and we learn as an audience through Zarif that Mavis is now suffering the same curse that he is suffering. Hey guys, how you doing? This is Manga etc, and I'm here today to talk to you about Fairy Tail Manga chapter 450. Now, something went wrong when I recorded the previous chapter, so I've got to talk about the end of that chapter before I jump into 450. So yeah, Zarif tells Mavis that she's got the same curse that he does, and the reason why she hasn't started killing people and living things is because she doesn't. Because as far as he's concerned, she doesn't fully understand the preciousness of life. And yeah, Mavis runs back to the guild where Makarov is being born for the first time. I gave the chapter a 3-star rating, I think I did. And yeah, that was it. It was mostly, I found that chapter was mostly set up for the next chapter, and just for the full wrapping up of what Fairy Heart really is. So 450, we see that now Makarov is born. We find out that Rita, who's Makarov's mum, wanted to give birth to Makarov in the Fairy Tail Guild rather than the hospital, because she wanted Makarov to just have that full family value from the moment that he's born. You know how they say that how it takes a village to raise a child? Well, in the fairy tale world, this can be said as it takes a whole guild to raise a child, kind of thing. So yeah, we find out that how Makarov was born in the guild. It was Makarov who gave the name because no one else could no one else could give a suitable name. So they left this up to Makarov, and Makarov named him after a kind king that she read about in some book a long time ago. Shortly after he was born, that is when Mavis' curse kicked in and she kills Rita. And at first, as I was reading the chapter, I was hoping that this was just a coincidence, because I felt that it could have added to the story if it wasn't really Mavis that killed Rita, and it was just a coincidence that she died at that time. But that wasn't the case. We see that how she killed Rita on the spot, so she ran away. She ran far, far away, and we see that she's now started to kill plants and stuff and such and such. So from knowing that she got the curse, she's spent a year away from the guild and half a year not eating in an attempt to kill herself, basically, because she just didn't want to leave anymore. But during this year away, she decided that she didn't go into Fairy Tail at all, so she has not seen none of her friends in the year. I don't know if it might have been just to me, but I felt that she was still in contact with them, but just hasn't seen them. So I don't know if like the Fairy Tail members know what's going on or not. It wasn't stated in the chapter, but I got a feeling, for me anyway, it felt like that she had still been in contact with them. But yeah, as we know, it's been a year since she's been away from the guild, and during this time, Zarif has come to find her, and he's just basically like, yeah, you've got the same curse, you finally realize the preciousness of life. And we just basically, this is Zarif basically just telling Mavis what he's been doing, how he's been building the Alvaries army, and how he made all these demons in an attempt to kill himself. And as he's saying all these things, he's being very contradictory. It's contradictory. Oh my gosh, he's contradicted himself. he's being very contradictory,
and he just everything he's saying, he's contradicting himself later. And as I was reading this, I was like, right, okay, Zuri's crazy. Yeah, he's crazy. Yeah, he's crazy. But okay, but during this time, while he's talking to Mavis, he finally realizes that he comes to the realization that he loves Mavis because Mavis has been so kind to him, and yeah, they basically feel the same way about each other. And during the chapter, they share a kiss, and I was a little confused, like oh, but yeah, they share a kiss, and it's while they're kissing that we see another contradiction because before they wasn't able they wasn't affecting each other, but all of a sudden now that Zarif has stated that he loves Mavis the most in the world, basically a contradiction has happened, and where he managed to kill Mavis. So at the end of the chapter we see that Mavis is dead, and it's a bit confusing, like at what's going on there. But I think the next chapter, sorry, which is entitled Fairy Heart, and we'll fully understand what has happened here and what Fairy Heart really is. This chapter for me was a bit emotional.